Next up is me. I'm going to be giving a talk. I'm going to be giving a little workshop. We're going to be showing off the Ampersend SDK. So thank you so much, everyone, for staying in and listening. I know this is a long session, but we're getting close to the end. We're going to be doing a fireside chat as well with Google and Coinbase. So please stay tuned for that. But first, let's dive into my presentation here. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and let's get rocking. Cool. All right. So we're going to be talking about the Ampersend SDK, which we just open sourced the SDK a couple days ago. You can basically, and by the way, anyone who's listening, please follow me on Twitter. I'm always posting interesting stuff around x402, and I'd love to have you follow me. You can follow me as crypto mastery _ on Twitter, and I'd love for that. So yeah, the Ampersend SDK was open sourced a couple days ago. It's available on the Node GitHub. So if you go to Node and you go to the Ampersend SDK repo, it is public and available. The first iteration, I should say example, and the first implementation of the SDK is built around Google A2A. So there's a working example in there that we're going to go through today and actually showcase how to set it up. And it also is using an example of how you implement an agent on the agent development kit, which is really useful. I saw one of the questions in the chat earlier was like, what are some of the things that you have to worry about when you're doing agent-to-agent communication? And like one of those things is like tracing, and agent development kit gives you some interesting stuff for being able to see what's going on when you're interacting with your agent and kind of like diagnose issues. So it's really, really useful. And so, yeah, so what do we get with the SDK? And so like, why would you use it? Well, first of all, it's going to be like the entry point into the actual Ampersend UI that you're going to utilize for managing all your agents. And so now it's available for you to try out just with x402. And one of the benefits is, again, there's an example that shows how you can utilize Google A2A to do x402 payments. It also has all of the smart account integration or like just standard wallet support built in as well, and all of the integrations to support ERC 3009 and to do the signatures validation inside smart contracts with smart accounts. And then it also has like the client and server components for you to be able to have the interaction between a buyer agent and a seller agent. As well as this like treasury pattern or treasurer pattern, where you can essentially have some like guardrails in place inside of the actual agent itself to basically control the spending or the spending of the agent. And then it's also, again, it's ADK compatible, which is really awesome. You know, A2A is very like flexible and you can like use other web services, but the ADK is great for just getting up and running and like testing your agent. So without further ado, let's actually just dive right into it. So we're going to walk through and we're going to deploy the SDK locally here on my machine. And in order to do that, you can just come to, again, to Node, ampersend-sdk. And there's a really good README that we're going to walk through that gives you all of the steps to set it up. You'll want to use UV package manager, which is like a Python package manager for managing the dependencies and everything that needs to be installed. You can do that pretty easily on like Linux with like just this curl command here. If you're on Windows, you can run this PowerShell command. But we're going to go ahead and step through this, and we'll get it up and running. So first of all, we're going to do a git clone on this repo, and we're going to clone it there and go into that directory. And then we're going to have two windows open because we're going to want to have a seller agent that's going to be selling some information over x402. And then we're going to have a buyer agent where we can actually interact with the ADK web to kind of like test this functionality for calling another agent to get some kind of data or some results. And so if we come back here, after we clone down the repo, it's going to walk us through the setup. So you're going to need to have Python installed. And so you can do that with UV, which is really nice. You can install like a specific version of Python into the project. I've gone ahead and already did that. And then you just need to come in here and install the dependencies. So you can run a UV sync and grab this and paste this in. So first we'll install those dependencies here. And it should be pretty quick. UV is a really fast Python package manager, so if you haven't used it, highly recommend. Sorry, I was going to do it there. And so now we have that up and running. And then there is an example env file that comes with this project, right? So it's available inside of here. If we go ahead and open it up, there's a couple things that you need to set. One is you need to have a buyer private key. So this is the buyer agent's private key. So in this scenario, we're not using anything but just an environment variable to load that. And then the URL for the seller agent is already configured, but this might change depending on your architecture. You might have multiple agents, so you need to kind of define that or have some way to get that inside of your application. And then you need a Google API key, right? Because we're using Gemini, and that can be got really easily from the documentation I'll show you in a second. And then you also need a pay to address. And so this is like where you want the payments to go. It could be any Ethereum address, doesn't really matter. And so all you need to do is really copy that env file over there and then add those. If you need to get the API key for Google, you can come here to the Google AI Studio and you can generate one on this page. You'll just need to set up a billing account. You don't actually need to put in credit card, I don't think. It'll just let you create an API key. So it's pretty easy to get set up. And then there's a whole generous free tier for the Gemini as well, which is really nice. When I first started using Gemini, I was really surprised because with some of the platforms, you have to have money in your account, but this one, there's a really good free tier. And if you need to, you also need a wallet, right? So what I always like to do, shout out to Punk Wallet. If you're not familiar with Punk Wallet is a really cool browser wallet that lets you generate a wallet inside of your browser. So you can come over here and you can basically generate a new wallet on the fly, and then you can fund it. So it'll give you the address, and then if you come up here, you can also reveal the private key, and it will show you what the private key is. So it's really useful if you want to just generate a wallet and not use any other tool to do it, like a wallet software or something like that. So you can then, after you get that wallet address, you can fund that wallet with the Circle testnet. Because we're going to be, for this demo, we're going to be using base Sepolia USDC. And so you'll want to choose base Sepolia. Oh, cool. They added ARC as well, which is really cool. And then you can do base Sepolia and put in your wallet address, and it will airdrop some USDC for you, 10 USDC, which you don't need a lot because we're just going to be doing microcent transactions. So after you get those set up, add them to your environment variable. Pretty easy to do. I'm just going to copy over my other one that I have, which is in this other folder, .env, yeah. So I'm just going to paste it here because I already have that stuff set up. And then we can continue on. So I have an env file. Optional is you can use dir env, which is a really cool tool that will automatically load an env file after you eval the directory. So you can add this to your shell, or you could just run this separately. So in this case, I'll just go ahead and run that separately, and this will load eval locally. Oh, so it's going to tell me that I don't have a envrc file. It should be in there. Let me just double check. Okay, well, I'm going to copy it. So I'm going to do a CP from the other directory, and I'll show you what it is. But it is a configuration file, and it actually should be in the repo. I'm not sure why it's not there. We'll get that fixed, but you don't want to put that right here. So what that's going to do is it's going to automatically load my environment variables for me here, and we can just make sure that that is being allowed by just doing this dir env allow. Just make sure. Yeah, okay, cool. So it's good. So that's loading in my environment variable. And the reason why we need that is because we need those environment variables to execute the commands and run the SDK. So after that, you should be good and you're ready to go. Before we actually start the agents, let's go ahead and take a look at those, at the project here, and take a look at the SDK inside of code a little bit. So if you're not familiar with Cursor is a really good IDE for AI tooling. So that's what I just loaded up here is Cursor. And I want to show up that envrc file, which is just like this file. We'll get this added to the project so that it's there. It should have been there. I'm not sure why it's not, but this is just so that it knows how to load it in your environment variable if you're using the dir env application. But inside of the SDK, we have this Python folder, right? And there's two folders. So there's the ampersend-sdk, which is the actual SDK. And then there's the examples, which is the agent-to-agent example of using x402. So if we look at that, inside of this A2A folder, we have a buyer, and then we also have a seller agent. So if we look at the seller agent, it's a Python agent here. And you can see here that we have this callback function that basically requires some data being passed to it. So you want to set like a price of like how much you want this agent to require for payments. You can also pass in what network that you want to accept those payments on, and then you can pass the address in which you want to send those payments to, right? And then along with like these little things like the model, the description of the agent, its instructions, and the tools that it has access to. So in this case, we have a very basic agent that's just responding to Google search, right? It's a fax agent, but really it's just a Google search agent example. And then inside of this buyer agent, it's basically knows how to discover the other agents by using the proper agent card that's defined here. It has a name, and it also has the treasurer configuration. So this is where you could like configure like advanced like things inside of the agent's rules on like what he might spend money on and what he might not locally inside the agent. It's got a very naive treasurer that kind of just lets him spend whatever, but you can like fine tune that if needed. And then up here is where we actually load in things like the private key, and then we use the smart account wallet if needed, or to load the treasurer as well. So these are where we actually load the environment variables, or not the environment variables, but the variable objects that we're going to load into the SDK. And so then if you dive into the SDK a little bit further, there you can see that we have tests for it. And then there's like three main components to the SDK. There is the client server kind of stuff where it does the connections between agent to agent to be able to interact over the A2A protocol, and then some like execution stuff. And then we have the smart account stuff as well, which is like for signing transactions that are decode or like executable using the 1271 validation, the signature validation. And then we have the x402 stuff, which has essentially the treasurer configuration. So like how it should deal with like, handling what it's allowed to spend money on, stuff like that. The wallet configuration, which loads in different kinds of wallets depending on what you want to use. So like, again, we support like standard accounts, which would be like an externally owned account, or we also support, using like smart wallets with the ERC 3009 spec using these functions here. So that's like a real high level overview of the SDK. Let's go ahead and start it up. So again, we can go to the README, and there's two things you want to do. You want to start up the seller agent first, right here, and we'll run that. This is going to build whatever it needs. So it might have to build some packages, and then it should load in the environment variables. Let's see if it's going to run. It's running a little bit slow right now, but then we'll come back to it. And then there's two examples for the buyer agent. That is not running. I guess it's still building. Let's see. I'll give it 1 second here. There it goes. Okay. So it starts the agent up for the seller agent here. And then here we want to load the buyer agent. So the buyer agent, we can either do it on the command line, or we can run it in the ADK web, which I prefer because it's a lot cooler and it's a lot more visually appealing. So let's do that. So we're going to load the agent here, the buyer agent, and then it's going to run on port 8080. So we're going to grab that here and spin it up. Let's take a look. Okay, so this is the ADK. We saw this earlier in Pablo's demo, but more specifically, what we have here is the ability to interact with the agent development kit and ask questions. And so we can say, okay, like, what is the tallest building in San Francisco? So what this is going to do is it's going to utilize the Google A2A framework to discover an agent that's available, and it's going to find out that there is a fact agent available that has access to Google search. And there we go. We got the Salesforce building, Salesforce Tower in San Francisco. And then if we come over here to events, we can specifically see the conversation and we can get access to what happened. So we can see here that there was some context that was sent. There was some metadata where there was a request and then a response. And then you can see here that the response was made. And then if we go down to the history, we can kind of see here that there was some requirements sent that a payment is required using x402 version 1. And we can see here that it required that base Sepolia was paid in an amount of 1,000, which is, that's in Wei, so that is 0.001, I believe. And then that payment was made successfully using an actual payment on the next function here, using that special payload. So here we can see there's a payload with the signature and then the authorization, the from, the to, the value, when it's valid, and then the nonce, which is really important because you don't want people to be able to make multiple signatures, multiple transactions with the same signature. And so if we go to the blockchain explorer for this address for the receive function, and we look at the token transfers, we can see here that 1 minute ago, there was a transfer for 0.001 cents. So really awesome example, just very simple to be able to utilize that. We also get some output here inside the console, which shows like exactly what happened. And then there's like I don't know what this 404 is, but basically this is the all the HTTP results. And also we can see here where there was a settlement that happened using the x402 as well, where there was a success, the transaction hash, which we could look that up if we wanted to inside of the block explorer and see that. And there it is. It was 2 minutes ago. And then we also get some console log output so that we see that it was all successful. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and stop sharing. And then what we can do is see if anyone has questions in the chat. Thank you guys, everyone, for tuning in. If you guys do have questions, technical questions about this implementation, we would love to hear them. Otherwise, I think we're probably getting close to the next step. We have Jordan and Erik and also Rodrigo that are going to be coming on stage, and we're going to be doing a fireside chat. So we're excited to do that. And we would love, again, for you guys to try out the SDK. If you have any questions, we're going to be available on Twitter. Please let us know.